What an amazing detail of a fire-breathing horse with what looks like lightning bolts for legs. Hi guys, a very warm welcome to a new look Phil's Corner. My name is Phil and this is a channel all about football shirts. If you're new, hit that subscribe button so you can keep up to date with the episodes as they drop. And if you've watched any of my previous episodes, you'll notice this is a slightly different look, so let me know, do you like the new look? How does it compare to the previous videos? I'm always looking to improve things on this channel, so I'd love to hear your feedback. Before we get into this is episode 5, and we're talking about MLS kits in the 90s, which is a really exciting era and a really exciting subject. I want to say a huge thank you to the sponsors of this channel, Kit and Bone. You may be familiar with Kit and Bone. They do some fantastic prints and shirts, and they have a great passion for shirts. They share in many ways my passion for kits, and there's a great attention to detail through all their products. So go and check out Kit and Bone. I'll leave a link in the description to them, and thanks again to them for supporting this channel at such an early stage of this channel's life. Now, as you may know, before I get into the main bit of the episode, I'd like to answer some of your comments. So I've got 5 comments here to respond to. First up, we have James Peter. Now, James mentioned the EFL's font, and he praised the design as a really nice design, which importantly promoted awareness. And I would completely agree with you, James. I should have given a mention actually to that font because it was a really good example of a league working with the charity. And the little squiggle at the end of the names was a nice touch. It's an unusual touch. And when I first saw it, I wasn't sure what it was all about, but actually reading about the partnership with Mind, the charity, the awareness that has been raised as a result of the typeface, there's a lot to like there. So that's just a great example of a good league-wide typeface. Thank you, James, for pointing that out. We also had Mr. Bindo, and he asked me to explain a bit more about what I think about the backs of German club shirts, which often have the team name on them. We mentioned that in the Borussia Dortmund video. And I do really like this tradition. It's quite an interesting kind of quirk with German shirts. Certainly something which separates them, I would say. And it's amazing, actually, that even in the modern era, we still have German club shirts with team names on the back. So yeah, I think it's a really good tradition. As the Bundesliga is set to return in the near future, look out for that detail on German club shirts. It's a really interesting quirk. I think it actually adds to the kits. And again, it gives them something of an identity to separate the kits from other leagues. On a similar note, Adam asked you to talk about La Liga's typeface. And again, that's a league-wide typeface, as we see in a lot of other leagues. The one thing about the La Liga typeface, it doesn't really grab me as much as some of the other typefaces out there. I'd certainly take the new MLS font, for example, or even the previous MLS font over that La Liga typeface. But yeah, as a font in itself, I think it just lacks that little bit of character, that little bit of something a bit quirky. So that's my take on it anyway. Now, Cami has a great question. He says, what about a worst kits video? And that's definitely something I want to do, Cami. He's quite rightly brought up the Colorado Caribous kit, which is an obscene kit. It's ridiculous. The tasseled brown and white affair, which I'm sure many of you have seen, quite rightly held as one of the worst kits of all time. I don't have any kits that bad. I do have some bad kits though. And yeah, it would be good to do some bad kit videos. So yeah, thank you, Cami. Great question. I really do appreciate the suggestions that you guys have for video topics. So do give me a shout with any ideas. Finally, we've got a question from Gonzalo, and he asks, what are your thoughts on kits with colours that don't get along with the club's history? So he uses the example of Arsenal having a white shirt, with white of course being the primary colour of Spurs, their rivals. It's a really interesting question, Gonzalo. I think that's a topic which probably deserves a video or two in itself. Broadly speaking, I'd say I have quite a liberal view in these things. I'm not particularly a traditionalist when it comes to kits, and I think in a lot of cases clubs can actually use rival colours to great effect. However, I will caveat that by saying, as with any kit, there's got to be a reason for the choice. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes, particularly in third kits or fourth kits, the reason may just be that you like the colours together. But actually, I think for a kit to really mean something, and particularly for a kit to use rival colours, there has to be some sort of message behind it. Sometimes, when you go back to the history of some of these clubs, they've used the colours of their rivals before. I mean, if you think of Liverpool, for example, their first ever kit was a half and half, almost Blackburn Rovers-esque style kit. And yeah, I think particularly for third kits again, or even just used in dashes, I think rival colours are there to be used. I don't really buy into the idea that your club should only stick to one colour palette year on year. Now, of course, as I say that, I am quite a liberal when it comes to these things. A lot of people understandably hold their club colours very dear to them. But that's a great question, Gonzalo. As I say, that's probably a topic. I'll have to go through my collection, see if I can find a kit which uses rival colours, and maybe do a video on that. But what are we talking about today? We are talking about 90s MLS. Now, MLS is a league I've mentioned a couple of times on previous videos, and I actually hold the league quite dear to my heart. I think from a kit perspective, there is so much to like. I've always had a fascination with the kits from MLS, and even in the modern era, where the kits, broadly speaking, haven't been as exciting as the 90s, I still think there's quite a lot to like if you're into kits. Of course, in the modern era, Adidas sponsor all the teams, and as a result, there has been a lot of repetition and a lot of quite bland kits. But still, whilst there has been a few things which aren't as exciting in the modern era, back in the 90s, when MLS kicked off, there was so much to like. And today, I want to pick out 5 of my favourite kits from the 90s. It was really hard actually to whittle this list down, because the league really came out with a bang. Of course, the World Cup in '94 was a landmark moment for US soccer, and the league that formed off the back of that, Major League Soccer, brought with it a raft of crazy designs. A few of my choices are from that very first year. There are a few things to note about MLS broadly speaking in the 90s. Probably the first thing is that we did have more than one manufacturer. We didn't just have Adidas kits, we had Nike, who were big players in those early days, but also the likes of Adidas. So that was really healthy for the kits of the league. I will say that most of my top 5 are from one manufacturer, which is more to do with my personal taste, but as a whole, it was good to see more than one in those early years. Probably my favourite thing about those 90s MLS kits is that they very much were big on branding and team identity, and some of the nicknames and the crests were incredible in particular. Now, this Metro Stars shirt next to me is typical, and we'll go into that in detail after my top 5. And again, in a very American move, most of those team names were effectively acting as the sponsor on the front of the kit, in some great word marks and typefaces, again like this Metro Stars shirt. It was a lot of fun. This is a shame actually that a lot of those team identities and names have been lost somewhat over the years. So that's something to really enjoy about 90s MLS. But let's get into the top 5, and we'll kick off the list with the truly crazy design. Now this is San Jose Clash. Now they are now the San Jose Earthquakes. But in 1996, in the inaugural MLS season, they had one of the strangest colour combinations I can ever think of from a kit. Now this is a half and half design, which was a template used on a few teams in that first season. But on one half you've got a pale yellow colour and the other half is white. In itself, that's already a slightly unusual combo, but it goes further. You've got a light blue teal collar and sleeve design, complemented, and I use that word loosely, with red details in the crest, and the crest is a scorpion. I mean, that in itself is amazing. That basically gave it a top 5 finish for me. You've got the Clash, the San Jose Clash across the middle, and the number in the bottom right. It's a real smorgasbord of features, it really is. But it's that colour combination which really stands out to me. It's an unusual combo. I really like it though. I really like the combination of the yellow and the light blue and the red and the white. It doesn't really work, but it does, if you know what I mean. It's a lot of fun. It very much typifies that first season of MLS kits. And there is another one from 1996 in this list, which we'll get into shortly. But yeah, San Jose Clash, their first ever home shirt, is one of my favourites. For number 4, I'll actually mention this kit. This is the Metro Stars 1997 away, I believe. Not only was their crest incredible, it looks like something out of a comic book, but their kits were really good value. They had a really good run right from that first season through to the early noughties. This particular away shirt is one that I love though. The colourway is gorgeous, the white, red and black, with the gold as well. Even just the placement of the elements, the thickness of those stripes, and just that Metro Stars across the front. How good does that look? Again, it's something that could be from a comic book. It really is a strong piece of design. And yeah, the crest. The crest is probably my favourite crest actually of my whole collection. So yeah, I could have picked many kits, but the 97 away is my choice at number 4. Now for number 3, we're going to jump back to the 96 season, that first MLS season, and I want to show you Dallas Burn, their first home kit. What an amazing detail of a fire-breathing horse with what looks like lightning bolts for legs. Now, just saying that out loud is amazing. Look at that. As a design, I mean, if we try to ignore it, it's impossible really, isn't it? But if we try to ignore that front detail, the rest of the shirt is more understated than some in terms of its colorway. It's relatively standard with a red and black design and flashes of gold and white, but it is that crest and subsequently the enlarged crest on the middle which steals the show by itself in a similar way to this MetroStars kit, but I think on another level. It just steals the show and creates an amazing design. Now in at number 2, we've not even mentioned actually in this video LA Galaxy. Of course, in recent years you'll be very familiar with their kits, predominantly being white with a blue sash. But back in the 90s we saw a range of different colorways. And most interestingly and most excitingly, there was a gorgeous green colorway, almost kind of tealy green, which is used in the 90s. That is easily one of my favourite colorways of all time. Look at that. Those pinstripes, the gold and black and white. The pinstripe design is really classy. The LA Galaxy crest as well is of course fantastic, as is the word mark across the front. But yeah, a really, really beautiful design which typifies Nike kits in the 90s for MLS teams. But what could possibly be number 1 after all those kits? Well, of course, the Kansas City Wizards could be number 1 with their instantly recognizable rainbow wave design of 1998. Now, I don't even know where to begin with this kit. Kansas City Wizards had a lot of fun kits in the 90s. They used that rainbow palette to great effect, but the 1998 one stands out to me. The kind of wavy design, the wavy aesthetic really, really works, particularly against the black base. I think that's what really steals the show actually. I think that colorway could easily get out of control, but having the black base but then using those colors as a wave across really looks good. Of course it was echoed as well in the shorts, which is fantastic. And I think the centralized crest is good. Shout out to Adidas. I mean, Adidas haven't been on this list. It's been a bit of a Nike love fest, but Adidas has taken number 1, rightly so I think, with this kit. But it's a standout design for me, one of my favorites of the 90s, one of my favourites of MLS, and a worthy number 1 in my eyes. So that's a pretty fun set of kits, and as I say, do go and check out more MLS kits. Go and look at some of the crests, go and look at some of the team names. But now let's take a closer look at this MetroStars shirt. I'll take it off the wall and we can just go through some of the details. I'll start with my favourite detail, that is the crest. Now just the design of that is beautiful. I've talked about it already, I'll talk about it again, I like it that much. It's this sort of skyline skyscraper design with a heavily stylized M and MetroStars written across the front. Everything about it, the colours, the design, and of course that then feeds onto the front of the shirt. Look at that text, the MetroStars text. You've got a bit of a lightning bolt motif again there across the front. Just as a general note, the material is quite heavy. It's quite different to modern kits. And this is of course a feature of many late 90s kits in particular. And just from a design perspective, striped kits always have something about them. But I think this is really, really nicely done with the white and the black, which is framed by the red pinstripes. Broadly speaking, I think these 97 kits were a little bit more understated and controlled, if you like, than some of the 96 kits. And I think as a result, they've aged perhaps a little bit better than the 96 kits. As much as I love those 96 designs, I think the 97 ones are a little bit more timeless. And this is a great example. I want to mention the old MLS logo as well. Now, as a whole, it looks quite small on this kit. I think they could do to make it a bit bigger. But anyway, just the design of it is really great. But yeah, this is a superb shirt. As I say, it's quite timeless in its design. You've got a very simple collar. There's no real details in things like the cuffs, but it's the colours, it's the pattern, the design of the crest, all the little things that are done well on this kit. Before I go, I just want to finish, talk about the NBA, because recently I've been really enjoying the new Michael Jordan documentary, Last Dance, but I've always had a passing interest in the NBA. And that documentary has got me thinking more about it. And I actually want to ask you guys, which team should I support? I ask you because I'm quite keen to follow a team more closely. And of course, my number 1 criteria is a team that's had good uniforms or good jerseys in the past and currently. So I'd be really interested to hear from you guys, those of you that watch the NBA, whether casually or if you're really into it, let me know in the comments. I did once go and see an NBA game in America actually. My family made a classic trip to Florida in the noughties, and I made a point of dragging my family to sports games. We went to the Jaguars, which was really good fun, and we went to see Orlando Magic too. And I actually picked up a Magic jersey, which I've got here. Now this has all the hallmarks of a great NBA jersey. You've got the team name on the front, a really nice subtle pinstripe. But I have committed the cardinal sin of getting my name on the back, and not only that, my first name on the back. That's quite embarrassing. You should never do that. You should never get your own name on a kit. Because now if I did ever want to sell this, I can't really sell it to anyone because it's got Phil on the back. But nonetheless, I've kept the jersey anyway. But despite seeing the Magic, I'm not particularly attached to them, so I'd love to know which team should I follow. From what I have seen, teams like the Grizzlies and the Suns had some amazing designs in the 90s, which they've referenced in recent kits. I remember the Timberwolves jerseys as well, and Kevin Garnett was there with the kind of Christmas tree trim on their uniforms. But let me know in the comments, who should I support when the NBA comes back? But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for taking the time to just indulge in some MLS kits with me. Once again, please subscribe if you're new to the channel. I really would value your support. And if you enjoy this video, please like and share the video with your friends, with people you know who like kits. I've got lots more videos in the pipeline, so stay tuned. I'm aiming to bring out a video every Saturday morning. And thanks once again to Kit and Bone for sponsoring the channel. Go and check them out. But thanks so much, guys. I'll see you this time next week.